Hello and welcome to the Environment This Week series section of Drishti IAS. I'm Aisha, and in today's episode we will be covering topics which are important from General Studies paper 3, that is environment and ecology. So the concept that we have followed is we have taken topics from the current affairs and then we will be talking about the static portion of it, and in the end we will be solving practice questions related to it. So let us see that what are the topics that we have taken in today's episode. So that is protecting oceans, marine biodiversity. Then comes greenhouse gases emissions intensity targets. Third comes the River Cities Alliance. And the fourth is the red crowned roofed turtle. So these are the four topics. Now let us begin with the first one. So that is protecting oceans and marine biodiversity. So as of now, the protection of the oceans is one of the major aspect which is in the news, as the oceans are becoming more and more polluted with increasing time, and there is no one who can take responsibility with regards to it, and the marine population is suffering because of it. And now if we talk about the pollution, then the pollution reasons for the pollution can be many, like for example oil spills are taking in a very larger quantity as of now, and then the plastic waste is increasing in the high seas and in the bigger oceans, and then there is coral bleaching taking place, and as the temperature of the earth is increasing, so the corals on a larger scale is losing out on their polyps. So let us see why this was in news. So there has been recently a report which has been released by the World Resource Center at the Our Ocean conference, and this conference was held in South Korea. So there was certain commitments and progress which was talked about, and the time period of the commitment and progress was from 2014 to 2024. So it talked about that more than 2,600 commitments was made to protect marine life and tackle ocean pollution. So basic idea was to focus on marine life and the ocean pollution. While out of these 2,600 plus commitments, only 43% have been completed, 38% of the commitments are in progress, and around 18% have not been started till now. Then around 25 billion US dollars is pledged funding which remains unspent. It means that out of all the funding which has been generated for the protection of the marine life and the ocean pollution, out of which around 25 billion US dollars has been unspent. Now urgent ocean threats. So what are the threats? So that is oceans are facing severe stress from plastic waste, illegal fishing, coral bleaching and the habitat loss. Now habitat loss is also one of the major aspects, because the marine life is now coming up more and more, and if we will see, then the phytoplanktons and the zooplanktons, they are also at a very depleting stage, and more quantity of it is required so that the marine life needs to be intact. Oceans cover around 70% of earth but are underfunded and over exploited, because there is no one who can take responsibility of the oceans, because whenever the oceans and the health of the oceans are being talked about, one of the major aspect that comes to the forefront is that who is going to take the responsibility for the cleaning of the oceans, or who is going to take the responsibility of the pollution that has been caused. Because whenever the oceans are being talked about, or whenever the high seas are being talked about, the point rises that in whose territorial waters does it come. So experts estimate that around 175 billion US dollars per year is needed by the year 2030 to restore and protect the oceans, because that is such a huge area. So it needs a lot of capital, and also it needs a lot of labor to work into that aspect. Now second is funding and inclusion gaps. Now marine protected areas have received only 6.7 billion US dollars compared to 86.6 billion US dollars for ocean climate projects. Now when we talk about marine protected areas, so these are basically the protected areas which are restricted areas on the oceans, because they have certain kind of biodiversity, or because of certain reasons they are protected and the reason is restricted for further use. Then small island developing states and least developed countries have made just 13% and 7% of total commitments respectively. Now the problem with the small island countries and the least developed countries are because these countries do not possess enough capital for themselves or enough technology for themselves, that they are not able to contribute to the funding aspect and also with regard to lowering down the pollution. Then what is the notable successes that has been observed till now? So over 1000 commitments have been completed till now, and the real progress has been seen in aspects like coastal conservation, sustainable fisheries, anti-pollution regulations. So anti-pollution regulations, sustainable fisheries, so that is also a good part, and coastal conservation, because the coastal areas needs to be conserved and it needs to be protected so that the other regions can also be protected at a better pace. Then if we talk about the new initiative, then the rapid deployment mechanism has also been started, and that has been launched by the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and the People. And what is the major role of it? So that is, it provides fast track grants to developing countries, and the support is, it will support biodiversity governance training, area mapping, policy drafting, workshop, funding, initially funding other countries, and all the other things will come under it. Now coming on to the second news, and that is the greenhouse gases emissions intensity target. So recently the draft targets has been given. So the Environment Ministry, so the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has recently released the draft greenhouse gas emission intensity target rules 2025. So these are the draft rules. These are not the final rules, are draft rules. And as part of the government's efforts to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from energy intensive sectors. So the energy intensive sectors, it means the sectors which are using a lot of energy, or the intake or the import of energy is very much with regard to it. So how the greenhouse gases can be reduced in those sectors. Now greenhouse gases emissions intensity. So greenhouse gases trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere, contributing to global warming. Now trapping of the heat, so the major greenhouse gases are, you can say, carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, then there is methane, nitrous oxide, then there is fluorinated gas, then there is sulfur oxide. So these are few of the bigger greenhouse gases and which contribute to the greenhouse gas effects. And greenhouse gas effects, what does it do is, it traps the heat and does not let it pass away, and that trapping of the heat makes the temperature of that particular area rise to certain level as compared to the other areas. Then the greenhouse intensity measures the amount of greenhouse gases emitted per unit of output, and it uses the tons of CO2 equivalent to account for the impact of all greenhouse gases. So it is not that one greenhouse gases is used, it is that the completely controlling and completely combining all the greenhouse gases is what it composes. It is not that the quantity of one is more as compared to the other. So it is basically tons of CO2 equivalent, and it contains all the greenhouse gases under it. Then reducing GEI is vital to mitigate climate change, promoting the use of cleaner technologies in industries to lower environmental footprints. Now what are the provisions of the draft GEI target rules 2025? So these are basically the draft rules, not the final rules. So first and foremost is the target setting for industries. So specific emission intensity reduction targets are set for energy intensive sectors like the aluminium, cement and pulp and paper for the period, or you can say for the upcoming period. So particular targets will be set for them so that they do not breach the target and the carbon emission is within the limit. Baseline emission and gradual reduction. So baseline greenhouse gas emissions for 2023-2024 are established with targets for gradual reduction over time. Then comes the third, and that is carbon credit trading scheme. So the industries meeting the GEI targets they will earn carbon credits, and the countries which will not meet the targets, they will lose out on the credit, and they need to buy the credit from the countries who has the surplus credit. Then sector specific applicability, so that is targets apply to 13 aluminium plants, 186 cement plants. So sector specific targets will be given to each and every sector. Penalties and incentives, so if any sector is not able to perform to what the targets has been assigned to them, then penalties will be given to these sectors also. Alignment with the Paris Agreement. Now Paris Agreement was launched in the year 2015, and it replaced the Kyoto Protocol, which talked about that the increase of the temperature needs to be in a particular range of 1.5 degrees Celsius, but it must not pass the 2 degree Celsius mark. So the rules support India's climate commitments, aiming for around 45% reduction in emissions intensity of GDP by the year 2030. So the target year is basically 2030. Then monitoring and compliance. So the Bureau of Energy Efficiency will oversee the carbon credit market and will look into the aspect that everyone is following the rules and the compliance is there. Coming on to the third topic, and that is the River Cities Alliance. So the River Cities Alliance was because the National Mission for Clean Ganga has approved a master plan for the River Cities Alliance to promote river sensitive urban planning through capacity building, knowledge sharing, and the expert guidance in India's cities. So the basic funda is to promote the river sensitive urban planning. It means that the urban planning must be done in a way that the development, the urbanization must be done in a way that the rivers which are passing through the urban areas should be incorporated into it. It means that the cooperation of the development, urban development, and the river must go hand in hand. No one should compromise, and the rivers must also not suffer because of the development. Now the River Cities Alliance, if we talk about, then it has been conceptualized to help river cities in India maintain their symbiotic relationship with their rivers, and this was launched in the year 2021 with 30 river cities. The RCA has now expanded to more than 145 plus cities. So basically symbiotic relationship, it means river and development both must take place, and both must go hand in hand, complementing each other, and no one will be at the negative end, or no one must be suffering. Symbiotic relationship means positive. River is also doing its task and is flourishing, while on the other hand the development is also flourishing in hand and is going in hand with the river. Then it is currently being managed by the National Mission for Clean Ganga under the Ministry of Jal Shakti and the National Institute of Urban Affairs under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Then it supports the creation of urban river management plans. Now coming on to the next aspect, and that is the urban river management plan. Now what is it? So it was launched in the year 2020 by the NIUA and the NMCG, which represents a first of its kind approach. And what is the approach about? To ensure that environmental, economic, and social dimensions are considered in the urban management of rivers. So it means that the cities, the urban areas, the management of the rivers must take into consideration all the economic, social, or the commercial aspect into it. Then 5 cities, namely Kanpur, Ayodhya, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar, Muradabad, and Bareilly, they have developed the urban river management plans, with Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar mission gaining global recognition from the World Resource Institute. So other countries have developed this, and the remaining countries can also adopt it. Now coming on to the last topic, and that is the red crowned roofed turtle. Now look at this image. This is how it looked like. Red crowned roofed turtle because the neck of the turtle is at a very high height. So it was in news because around after 30 years, 20 critically endangered red crowned roofed turtles, they have been successfully reintroduced into the Ganga river under the Namami Gange mission. So this is basically a biodiversity milestone. The scientific name is Batagur kachuga. Batagur Kachuga, and it is found basically in countries like India, Nepal or Bangladesh. It means the surrounding countries of India. And the rivers that it is found in is Ganga, Brahmaputra, Chambal. Now, if we talk about the protection status, so the IUCN status is critically endangered, and the IUCN status makes it very, very important from the exam respect also. Indian Wildlife Act, that is Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, it means under highest security or protection. Site says Appendix 1. It means that their sale is banned. Key features is, if we talk about the size of the turtle, then female can grow up to around 56 meter long and the weight can be 25 kgs, while males are shorter in height and almost half of the females. If we talk about the shell of the turtle, then it is hard raised shell which helps them swim in strong currents. Then if we talk about the snout of the turtle, then they have a short, slightly pointed snout which helps them breathe while they are underwater. Then if we talk about the colors, so during the breeding season, males develop bright red, yellow and blue streaks on their necks. And this is basically during the breeding season, the males do to attract the females. Food, they are herbivores in nature and they basically live in deep, fast flowing rivers, and they need sandy beaches or sandbars to lay their eggs. So they are usually found in deep and fast flowing rivers. So become important because of the IUCN status of it. And now coming on to the practice questions, and like always, you people will give me the answer in the comments below. So the first question is that the Paris Agreement replaced which of the following protocols? So that is Kyoto Protocol, Kunming Agreement, Nagoya Protocol or the Earth Summit. Next is, what is the main objective of the River Cities Alliance in India? To build dams on all major rivers, to promote tourism in river valleys, to provide a platform for cities to work together on river management and conservation, or fourth, to privatize water supply in urban areas. Next is, what is the IUCN status of the red-crowned roofed turtle? So that is vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered or near threatened. So give me the answer in the comments below, and that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time. Keep reading, keep writing and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.